Sports Professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard, the serious show that doesn't take itself too seriously, except it's a $1 trillion sports business, and as the NBA and NHL intensify, the NFL going through its halfway, college football with the incredible juxtaposition in the rankings, and NASCAR basically headed for its championship in the end of its season, and golf in its quote-unquote off-season, although you can't convince people who are winning the tournaments that they are. Obviously, this is a big time of year, and you can join us by taking a look at our CSN Mid-Atlantic and CSN Washington websites. Subscribe, Google Play, Audio Boom, our Apple Podcast, Stitcher, a whole host of places. We have a NASCAR theme at the end of the week. Brian Sperber, who runs the Phoenix International Raceway and is captain of the nearly $200 million renovation, talking to us as we get ready for Homestead and the NASCAR final. But first, let's take a look at some of the issues around sports this week. And we're going to start with college because the basketball season officially opens and the NBA is there, but college basketball front and center with the FBI's ongoing investigation. Auburn, Arizona, Louisville. Commissioner Larry Scott, Big 12 commissioner, said is a significant distraction. Bruce Pearl repeatedly told his job might be in jeopardy if he doesn't cooperate with the ongoing investigation. Further legal action still pending. The season beginning, and of course not helping the situation, UCLA students, including LiAngelo Ball's, continued detainment in China following alleged shoplifting charges stemming from a Louis Vuitton store near the team's hotel. The specter of investigation hangs over all of college basketball, not to mention all of these programs. And my take is, won't be looking for this to be cleaned up pretty soon. You've heard Sonny Vaccaro on our podcast talking about how it may just be the tip of the iceberg. We'll have to see. College football, as we get into the college football bowl subdivision playoff system and what that means, leadership positions at those schools coming under question. The Institute of Diversity and Ethics in Sport gave the top-level college sports an overall grade of D+ for leadership positions and gender hiring. Caucasians, about 87% of the 395 campus leadership positions reported in the study. About 90% of university presidents were white, 83% of athletic directors, 87% of faculty athletic representatives, 22 people of color total held the roles of university presidents or ADs, and 87% of the head coaches in the FBS are white. 56% of college football players are black, 39% are white. Report card by nature is an analysis of progress, would be my take, and clearly much more needs to be done to create an atmosphere of diversity and inclusion among college sports leaders, particularly within high-revenue, high-scrutiny football programs. We're not leaving college sports yet because money is always the big issue for college sports. Texas A&M University looking to address the common issue of hotel room scarcity in college towns, but it's going to cost consumers an extremely high price. Texas A&M planning to build a new hotel directly across the street from Kyle Field to give more football fans a place to stay for home games on weekends. Use guaranteed room options to auction off rooms. Reservations for the hotel's top floor, bids for GROs range from $125,000 to $475,000. GROs are like PSLs, personal seat licenses, a tactic that sports franchises deploy upon building new stadiums to partially fund projects and lock in ticket holders. A&M, by the way, took inspiration from the hotel from LSU. Alabama and Ole Miss currently offer similar perks at campus-affiliated hotels. School officials plan to have the hotel completed in time for the 2018 home opener. Pretty aggressive. The GRO program expected to raise more than $28 million for the university. And my take is, take a look at other schools to very, very quickly follow suit. Certainly study the issue. We talked about college basketball leading this off, and let's switch to the pros. The Bulls host the 2020 All-Star Game, bringing the sporting event back to Chicago for the first time since '88. Jerry Reinsdorf, Adam Silver, Rahm Emanuel, Michael Reinsdorf there. Back in '88, Jordan was the All-Star Game MVP and Dominique Wilkins slam dunk winner. Jerry Reinsdorf at that time was outspoken about not having the All-Star Game in Chicago. They'd have to force me to take it, said he in 2012. They take over the building, really no good can come out of it, and it's upsetting you and your fans. Famous last words, by the way, from a famous father about an event that long been considered a standout in the pro sports all-star game pantheon. My take is obvious. The NBA does it right. Look for a really interesting and positive celebration in Chicago. That's one issue with the NBA, but there are a few others. For example, when you take a look at the NBA across all dimensions, sponsorship is key. Intel bringing live virtual reality experiences to the NBA and TNT, beginning with the All-Star Game in LA. Intel True VR and Turner Sports will be delivering NBA content to fans live in VR. The two organizations announced a multi-year partnership which sees Intel True VR become the exclusive provider of virtual reality for the NBA on TNT. Intel will also be partnering with the NBA around its 360-degree video using Intel 3D technology. For example, they can freeze, play, and view the action from LeBron James or Stephen Curry's point of view, for example. The 360-degree replay can also be woven into broadcast for commentators to pause and further analyze important plays. Not to be outdone, the Celtics Utah Jazz executives talked about NBA 2K Esports League. Aaron Ryan told audience members at the team conference in Orlando that despite working at the NBA for the past 20 years, it's given him street cred at his house with his 12-year-old daughter. The biggest thing is not working with the NBA, but being associated with the 2K and NBA 2K E-League. Ryan was joined along by executives with Jazz, Celtics, Orlando Magic, and the Wizards. He added that the new NBA venture with 2K and Take-Two Interactive Software is access to a different conversation with new fans, corporate partners, and facilities. 17 NBA franchises will participate in next year's inaugural season. Tryouts and a draft expected to be held next February and March. And as we've said in other podcasts, look for the Olympics to be involved in this as well. Speaking of international, the Greek Freak continues his legacy. He signs with Nike, courted by almost every major apparel company for the right to sign him. Nike was re-signing with him because he said it includes the creation of a signature shoe already in the works. The first signature shoe of the line is expected to be released in time for the holiday season of 2019. International attention that he receives is expected to pay huge dividends for Nike in the creation of the new shoe line. And the take is this. With the new deal in place, the Greek Freak now has one of the largest shoe deals ever for a European player, right on par with the one with Kristaps Porzingis and others. We talked college basketball. We've talked pro. How about the WNBA? They're now going to be allowed to sell additional jersey patch sponsorships next season. The new 2.2 inch by 2.2 inch available for sponsors in the upper left-hand shoulder of game jerseys. Like the NBA, by the way, the WNBA teams will be allowed to sell on-court advertising near both foul lines to a single sponsor, though these ads will have to be removed for all games broadcast on ESPN. The league is in growth mode, and we want to continue to innovate, said COO Jay Perry. We're excited to bring the jersey badge and new on-court opportunities as ways for brands to connect with teams in meaningful ways. And as long as the advertisements, as we've said before, are tasteful, they should be met with approval from the higher-ups at the NBA, which owns the Women's League, and may be using the women's units to test market approval for what eventually may be seen on NBA jerseys as well. More money, more found money, more positive opportunities for everybody, including the players. Let's shift to hockey. 2019, the Winter Classic, heading to South Bend, Notre Dame Stadium, Blackhawks, Bruins. They've played the Blackhawks in other Winter Classics, Wrigley Field 2009, Nationals Park 2015, Busch Stadium in St. Louis last year. The Blackhawks' sixth outdoor game total. 8 teams never played outdoors, and 10 have only played once. Over the years, the original 6 teams and other franchises with richer hockey histories have been picked more frequently to play in special outdoor games, but fans outside of Chicago growing discontent with the announcement of more Blackhawk games outdoors. By the way, they're only 1-4, so they better step it up. And another reason for this, by the way, is that a little more difficult, as we know, to pull off hockey games in Phoenix, Florida, Southern California, even in January's so-called winter chill. But the bottom line is this: as long as NHL teams and fan bases are disappointed that they're not getting the Winter Classic, it's good for the league. There are long-term more than enough to go around. How about the NHL in China? The Bruins are looking at expanding opportunities in the country. China's sports marketer Zhan Zhang became the first Chinese investor in an NBA team with a 5% stake back in 2016. Timberwolves are also looking, but yet the Bruins are aggressive in planting seeds in China. Hockey not as popular as basketball across that vast country, so the Bruins have been helping build the game from the grassroots up by sending players overseas to put on youth clinics. Of course, it's a long-term fan base in China and elsewhere, but it also begins with youth involvement and the sport on hand. Gary Bettman talks about China and the preseason games and help from the Kings and others to pull it off. The NBA, even if they get a small market share in China, it's a big deal. How about baseball? One thing that's very important in the off season as we head toward the winter meetings, which we'll cover in a couple of podcasts down the road, the Braves continue to see a revenue model thanks largely to seeing their team's new stadium and surrounding development helping drive the additional numbers. SunTrust Park in Battery, Atlanta, $336 million in revenue during the first 9 months of the year, $104 million more than all of 2016, $100 million higher than any of the previous 3 seasons. The Braves franchise and revenue numbers increased significantly in the past year, and the team took on a considerable amount of debt, about $585 million, up about $75 million since last year, but my take is obvious. The team is not expected to have a tough time paying off that debt with the increase in ticket sales, concessions, corporate sales, suites, and premium seat fees. Let's look at football. Roger Goodell slowing the contract down, Jerry Jones, Ezekiel Elliott, all of those issues very important. But let's remember that there are also things that are happening off the field. Just as the NFL players talk about protest, there are real things happening. The NFL makes a donation to Tuesday's Children. They've given a $200,000 grant to a nonprofit organization called Tuesday's Children. The mentoring program focused on supporting children who have lost one of their parents, providing support to communities and families impacted by terrorism and the loss of loved ones in warfare. NFL first began working with Tuesday's Children after 2001, and the league partnered with the organization to provide families of first responders with aid. The recently announced grant will be used to expand the program to include children who have lost a parent in the military. Enrolled children will be matched with carefully selected mentors who will provide the children with guidance and support to help them succeed both in school and in their communities. And finally, with the NFL, Falcons honor veterans for Salute to Service Week. The Atlanta Falcons hosted their third Salute to Service Week ahead of their game with the Cowboys on Sunday. The week was dedicated to honoring the military with different events throughout the week, veterans for armed forces and their families. Leading up to the game on Sunday, where they were hosted for the game with each player on the Falcons wearing a decal with the initials of different veterans on their helmets. A really nice touch. The fans were also invited to the team's Saturday walkthrough, where they were able to meet the players and coaching staff. Some of the events hosted by the team throughout the week included a youth football clinic at Fort Stewart, an event where Falcons employees assisted with the packaging of approximately 300 care packages shipped to military personnel overseas, and a Vietnam War veterans breakfast. kudos to the NFL and kudos to those who continue to be involved in all of this, and the power of sports continues. Let's shift to NASCAR with our special interview this week. Brian Sperber, the Phoenix Raceway, they've just come off of a very successful and very dramatic race, the semifinals, the Can-Am 500, heading to Homestead for the championship. But in the meantime, the Phoenix Raceway project, $178 million investment, 2 fan entrances called Canyons, 51 suites, 11 garage offices, 3 garage suites, new pedestrian tunnel, media center, 400 HQ HD displays, and a new partnership with ISM Connect, a naming rights partner with a high-def, high-tech 360-degree major partner. They'll unveil the naming as part of the new opening in 2018. But in the meantime, Brian Sperber has been in the family as one of its top entrepreneurs at International Speedway Corporation and Phoenix for a long time. He talks to us about competing in the Valley, getting money for public-private partnership return, the idea of racing in the Valley of the Sun with IndyCar as well as 2 NASCAR races, and on and on and on. Brian Sperber. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, Beyond the Scoreboard in the boardroom. Major announcement in the racing world, but also broadly defined, a new and improved venue, and now another financial partner, so racing in pretty good shape. Brian Sperber, the president of Phoenix International Raceway, but so much more. How are you?
Hey, Rick. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. We'll talk about the state of the industry in a minute, but the specific news as far as ISM Connect and a pioneer in smart venue technology and your multi-year partnership naming rights for the Phoenix International Raceway. I guess we call it something different starting in 2018. What's the deal?
Yeah, I'm going to have to get new business cards printed up, I think. We will be going. I think so. We'll be going from Phoenix Raceway to ISM Raceway starting January of 2018. So really exciting for us. And the partnership, clearly there's a financial element. I think your listeners know that. And that's how kind of sports works. But what made this opportunity even more exciting was the technology and innovation that ISM wanted to bring to the facility, which is really a tremendous complement to the bricks and mortar buildings that we are putting in place. And so it really gives us kind of a 360 improvement here at what will now be ISM Raceway. And so I think the fans are going to be the big beneficiaries of all of this.
Well, and get specific about it as well, because it sounds like the installation of this leading-edge digital fan engagement experience, it's a nice phrasing, but what does it really mean, and how is it going to benefit the fan?
Sure. I think it starts with great connectivity. And, as all of us are sports fans, one of the things, especially the younger sports fan, one of the things that they insist upon now in going to these large sports events is connectivity, to be able to put a selfie up on their page right away is something that's very important to our guests. And so we will have a fully Wi-Fi enabled venue. And as you know, these racing venues are rather large. And so somebody was telling me the other day they believe that our Wi-Fi footprint will actually be the largest in the state of Arizona, which is kind of cool. And so our fans will now be able to seamlessly and conveniently connect to all their social media media platform. So I think it starts with that. But what really makes the ISM side of this super exciting is that not only will you be able to post those selfies, but you'll be able to really connect to all sorts of different types of content throughout the venue, which will be unique to the in-venue experience. And so imagine being able to walk through, say, our Midway, for example, and you'll see a number of really cool video boards that will be producing all this very interesting content. And as you approach, they have technology which they were showcasing at the press conference that will immediately recognize you demographically. So, in your case, Rick, you would walk up and it'd say you're a 22-year-old individual or thereabouts, and then also it has the ability to assess your mood. So it was really cool during the press conference as people walked up and they saw the video board, and then it immediately was able to tell them what mood they were in and how old they were. And so yeah, it's really amazing. So the content now can be tailored to that audience, and so the fans will now get to have access to really customized content. And then as they move around the venue, there'll be all sorts of audio content and other content that will be delivered directly to their phone based on geographically where they are around the venue. So, for example, our brand new tunnel that's being constructed in the dog leg, that tunnel, for example, might be a history walk. And so as you go through the tunnel, your phone will connect and you'll be able to hear about the history of what will be ISM Raceway, or there may be specific content about the racetrack that's unique and that some of the drivers might be sharing. And so throughout the whole venue, it'll be much like that, where fans will really have a fully enriched live experience.
Man, if I can find somewhere where they'll project me as a happy, enlightened 22-year-old individual, I'm all in, man. That's what
I'm thinking. I'm going to sell you a ticket here.
I am all in. If you're selling, I'm buying. But the more appropriate and kind of connection, and really the news story here for the general fan, is the naming with a synergistic partner in a $178 million raceway renovation project that is effectively a private investment for public good as it opens in November 18. So a lot of storylines there. Comment on all of that.
Sure. When we announced the project back in January, we were able to showcase some of the renderings of the designs that we had in mind. And clearly, people were talking about it being a renovation, and it's really not a renovation in my view. I think it's a brand new facility. And so as we showed these renderings, I think folks got a real understanding of the incredible transformation that's going on here. And we really are building a brand new facility ranging from a new midway, a new sports bar, grandstand seats, vertical transportation, the tunnel I mentioned earlier, and a real leading edge fan experience in the infield, which I kind of liken to Disneyland meets NASCAR, where fans will be able to get a real behind the scenes look at all the elements that go into a race that maybe previously they've not had a chance to experience, ranging from NASCAR inspection to pre-race meetings, and then I think the real anchor of the fan zone will be access to the NASCAR garage. And so all of those things were built into the, call it, bricks and mortar side of the equation, and now with the ISM relationship, to be able to add the other side of the world, the digital world, to really complete the picture. The fans are really poised to be able to enjoy what will be a truly leading edge experience physically and digitally, which will be very, very unique. I'm not aware of any other motorsports venue in the world, or any other sports venue for that matter, that will be able to complete the circle the way that we intend to.
Well, so ISE does it again, $400 million of investment, and they believe in the future in Daytona, and that becomes an entirely new experience, and a similar process with the $178 million for the Phoenix Raceway project as well. I assume all of it is geared to the long-term stability and enhancement of the product, and it starts with the facility.
Yeah, I think that's right. Over the years when we've seen motor racing, and in particular NASCAR, enjoy a meteoric rise, it brought with that rise, it brought a lot of new meaning that we were really, busting at the seams to be able to accommodate all the new fans that were coming, both from a traffic plan, parking, concessions, restrooms, really all the basics. Most of the venues that were on the circuit in those days were, fairly old venues, and Phoenix Raceway it certainly fits that bill, having been built in 1964. And so, here you've got this great scenario where there's a lot of new folks coming to check you out and see what all the excitement is about your sport, and yet you're probably letting them down because the facility is overextended and not able to deliver the in-person and live experience that is commensurate with the quality of the product on the racetrack. And so I think over the last number of years, quite a few years now, the sport has recognized that and has started making capital investments to greatly improve and enhance the live experience and make it more on par with what you'd find at other traditional sports venues. And because, especially in a market like Phoenix, the folks that come out to our Can-Am 500 race in November are likely going to be going to the Diamondbacks and the Suns and some of the other venues around the city, and so they've grown accustomed to a certain level of physical comfort. And I think with the new Phoenix Raceway project underway, and when we have our grand opening as ISM Raceway, our physical offerings will now be at minimum on par with, I think, what they'll find at other sports venues, and in many cases I think will exceed expectations. And so that's I think really, really important for our sport to make that kind of a statement about where the sport is going, and to make sure that we're staying in step with what our fans of today and as importantly tomorrow are looking for in a sports venue.
Well, Brian, the unsung hero as far as the businessman that put the deal together, the perspective on this is something we ought to talk about, because you take a look at the naming of arenas and football and baseball stadiums. It is commonplace. There is a set value of it, and you stay within that range, and you offer some dollars, and you negotiate. That's easy. But there aren't a whole lot of raceways that have been named for companies as well, especially raceways that are in the middle of a major renovation project that's become synergistic. So basically, how do you do it, and how do you find somebody that could advance the goal of making the facility look better in addition to putting more money in your pocket?
Well, Rick, I think we're really fortunate that the timing of the construction project itself was really fantastic as it related to ISM's business, and so those two things sort of bubbled up together. And I'm never going to look luck in the eye, if we can, or in the mouth, so to speak. But if we can get luck, we'll take it. And I think in this case there was certainly an element of luck in that our project was coming along, and I think just the right time. And so when the folks at ISM saw what we were building and in the market that we're building, building it, and they had an opportunity to jump in and really kind of co-venture the finished product with us. It made it, I think, really appealing, and that got the conversations going, and then from there, it moved really quickly. And my experience over all these years has been that when something is right, it tends to go very, very fast. And so I think they felt that way. We certainly felt that way, and we were able to reach an agreement fairly quickly. And again, it's what makes this so unique. And you mentioned some other traditional sports venues that sell naming rights. It often is just a function of putting a sign on the building and some tickets and some suites, and that's about it. In this case, we really are kind of co-creating the finished product and being able to access ISM's technology and implement that here as a showcase for what they can do at other retail environments, sports environments, etc., is really, really exciting. And some of the partners that they have, and they mentioned at the press conference names like Google and Carlos Slim's company Eris and many others in the tech space. I think will be coming to be involved with our project as well. And so it just really makes for an exciting time, and to see this facility come together physically and from a digital standpoint, to really be, I'm biased, but I think will be clearly a show place for motor racing in this country is terribly exciting.
Well, and looking luck in the eye, the mouth, the face, wherever you want to look at it, the bottom line is that as history is written about the deal, you look back at some of the creative sponsorships of races inside of tracks, and it's the SpongeBob SquarePants 500 and this movie or that cause, and that's all great. But now you have a company that's really a building partner that puts its name on the facility, not just the race, and that must give you some satisfaction too.
Yeah, it does. I think it speaks a lot about how the folks at ISM are really viewing this project, because I think, while it clearly is a sports story and a sports marketing opportunity for them, I think because it really is a bit of a blank canvas from many respects. It created an opportunity for them to build with us a show place for technology. And had we just been going through a simple renovation, or if we were just selling naming rights, I don't think this opportunity would have been appealing to ISM. I mean, it really had to have all those elements together, and culturally it was a great fit. We very much want to push the limits that we can in terms of entertaining our guests and being leading edge with technology, and I think all of those things combined really created an amazing opportunity for ISM and frankly for us as well. And our fans will be the beneficiary of all of this effort and hard work that will be going into this project over the next 14 months. It's I think it's going to be really amazing when it's completed.
All right, Sperber. Now, truth be told, so this November race obviously is it's not a shakeout, but it's in the old naming and the old administration. So in the next 14 months, are you putting up signs personally? You're going to go down there and hang the ISM banners all over the place? What's your role in this? And are you on schedule?
Unlike my kitchen remodel of a few years ago, we are on schedule and below budget, which is really amazing.
That's good for your wife. Hey, it's great for you, but it's really good for her, right?
Yeah, exactly. We weren't able to accomplish that at my house, so I'm very, very pleased to be associated with a successful project. It's all hands on deck, so there's a lot of work to be done. These relationships, once they're announced, while there's a lot of work that goes into getting us to the press conference, after the press conference, there's lots that needs to be done, and a lot of exciting things that will get worked on over the next 14 months to make sure our final debut in November of 2018 will be the very best that it can be. And so we're all doing all sorts of things to make that reality happen in a big way.
Brian Sperber, President, Phoenix International Raceway, or let's say ISM Raceway, starting in 2018. Thanks a lot, and we'll follow this religiously and incessantly before it opens, you can be sure.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, man. Talk to you soon. Well, Brian Sperber certainly brings a lot to the table as Homestead culminates a very successful 2017 NASCAR season. No, they don't race in Nashville, but if they built a track, they would. Bottom line is this: a big sports week, even bigger next week. Look at all of our 15 to watch and subscribe on Google Play, Stitcher, Audio Boom, iTunes, Apple Podcast, and the whole 9 yards. Interesting positives this week and next week even more. We'd like to thank Brian Sperber. We'd like to thank Dan Martin from NBC Washington and Tanner Simpkins with one of my guys for helping to put this together. Thank you for listening and watching. Why don't you join us next week when we go Beyond the Scoreboard?